The regular commissioners of the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District is now called to order. It is Monday, September 13th, 2021. The time is 5:15 p.m. Commissioners, if I could remind you, please activate your microphones when you speak and turn them off when you're finished, please. Joanne, would you do the roll, please? Joanne, commissioners, there is a change to the agenda. Brianne, would you bring that up, please?
Commissioners, I'd like to move number 1 off the agenda tonight so we have some more time to go through these numbers and come back with a better presentation.
Agreement with that? Okay. It's time for public requests. If you'd step up to the microphone, turn the microphone on, please, at the podium, and we welcome your comments. And then we'll go to the call-ins.
Wonders of technology. There we go. Okay, sorry, I'll start over again for the benefit of those who did not hear me the first 2 times. My name is Robert Ducate, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace, Boca Raton. Again, I want to thank commissioners for your information that you put in this agenda package regarding the conversion of the current tennis courts at Boca Chica to pickleball courts. You obviously identified a demand within the recreational community, and the demand is obviously for more pickleball courts. I have not discussed this with Mr. Travassos, who is here regularly talking about this, but I can tell you that obviously there is a lot of people that in our city who do want pickleball courts. And spending $400,000 for the 12 pickleball courts at Boca Chica, converting those tennis courts, certainly makes a lot more financial sense than spending $900,000 as proposed at the Patch Reef site. Patch Reef, as you know, is not just for district taxpayers. You're already spending over $1 million to revamp those tennis courts, which I wholly support, but I cannot support spending $900,000 of district taxpayer money when you can spend less than half of that amount in the Boca Chica. Also, I don't know who put on the request for basketball courts. I haven't heard anybody at any of my meetings here that I've attended asking for basketball courts. So that means you could actually have 14 pickleball courts for the price of half the price, less than half the price that you're proposing at Patch Reef. Also, I want to thank the district council last meeting for their clarification on what constitutes, to some degree, what can and cannot be done as far as your private partnerships, potentially the public-private partnerships. I think that those clarifications are important because there are a lot of rumors going around of all kinds of things possibly being placed in Boca Chica. So it's nice to know that I think the legal status is that there's no conveying, selling, or leasing of property, with the exception, as your legal counsel said, maybe a concessionary agreement. And lastly, I want to point out that I still fully support soccer fields there in Boca Chica. I think that it's important for the district to be planning ahead of time. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, you do have soccer fields that may be going away at some point in time. And you also have an increasing population, as we talked about demographics. At the last meeting, there was discussion that some people in the community adjacent to potential soccer fields would oppose lights that could be open as late as 10 o'clock. Personally, I don't know too many kids, maybe 12 and under, that are going to be having practice at 9 to 10 o'clock. So if we're looking to accommodate the growing children in our community who want to play soccer, I would certainly encourage you to consider this as part of your design for the Boca Chica improvements. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Decay. Who else would like to speak?
Hello, fellow commissioners. I'm A. Silsiliberti, and I live at 6200 Northwest 2nd Avenue and in Boca Chica. I want to express my gratitude that you guys, I know there's a lot of hurdles and everything to actually get going on Ocean Breeze. It's easy to say, hey, my backyard's been looking pretty bad for a long time, but to actually, you know, make decisions and get them going. I know there's going to be pushback and it's political and there's a lot of things going on. So I'm actually grateful that you guys are, you know, starting something, and it's always one step in a long, when you go up the mountain or whatever going up. I wanted to address the basketball courts a little bit, only because, you know, I used to be the president of Condo 4, which is probably the closest condominium in Boca Chica to the tennis courts. And anyone that thinks that there's never going to be anything there and it's always going to be silent, I mean, you know, that's like when you have a nice view and then somebody builds because they have the right to build, and then, you know, you don't have the right to the view. So for anyone to think there's never going to be any sound there, that's one thing. But the basketball courts, in my opinion, you know, that's probably the most prominent, most visual corner of all of Ocean Breeze that is going to receive a lot of traffic and drive and exposure. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be basketball courts anywhere on the Ocean Breeze. I just don't think that you want to portray that as one of the prominent things that are developed there. I do think there's maybe a spot in the 212 acres for it. There's never been basketball there, and I don't particularly remember anyone going for it. I don't know if it was just a throw-in or not. But again, I want to thank everyone for taking the time and the due diligence. Now I see that it's off the agenda to carefully plan and, you know, really make the decision. But I know it's been on your agenda pretty much every meeting, and I want to thank you guys for it. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Chaffee? Oh.
Good afternoon. My name is Neil Barretts. I live at 3225 Equestrian Drive in Boca Raton. I'm a little disappointed that the Boca Chica item's coming off the agenda, but I've been following what's been going on between the discussions that you've been having over the last several meetings. And I understand the council made a presentation about the limitations on the ability to convey or lease, but that doesn't seem to me to foreclose other options. And when there's a party evidently willing to come to the table without seeking any Parks Department money to develop a facility which will include pickleball courts, which will include an indoor facility, basketball courts, pickleball courts, tennis courts, if the Parks Department is unable to convey any sort of a fixed interest in the property, there's got to be some solution that doesn't cost the taxpayers any money, but gives them a facility that will include tennis, pickleball, which everybody seems to want, basketball court, and fix the eyesore that has been there for many, many years. Thank you.
Mr. Chaffee?
Harold Chaffee, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue. I'm the president of Keep Health in Boca. I have no objection to any sport. I really don't. We've been living with this Boca Chica for almost 5 years now. It's a little, confusing. We did interview, and we are going to contract a person who's going to help us develop the land. Okay. And, all of a sudden last week, we're going to decide to put pickleball courts there. Now, pickleball courts, maybe that's not the exact place where it should be. No, you should just go through the process, bring the person in, have the meeting with the residents, with the owners, with the people from Boca, from the city, and make a plan and go forward with the plan. To spend $250,000 or 200 or 150 or 20 bucks, it doesn't matter. If that's in the wrong place and has to be moved, first of all, if you put $250,000, $300,000, I'm going to be a little upset that you put $300,000 and now it has to be ripped out. You need to just slow it down a little bit, not a knee-jerk reaction, and just come up with a plan, meet with these people, talk about it, and develop it over a period of time and make it the best that we can possibly make it. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chaffee? Anyone else? Greg? Welcome back.
Hi, guys. Greg Galanis, 1780 Parkside Circle South, Boca Raton. I'm a little confused. The sounds of the meeting is like the enhancement of Boca Chica community. And I don't think that's kind of the purpose of what's happening or what the need is. The elephant in the room is we spent nearly $30 million in taxpayer money, and we're talking about hiring a consultant to tell us what to put there. We're talking about pickleball, walking trails, basketball courts, tennis courts, which have a significant amount of cost, but very little revenue. You guys, I'm sorry, but you guys are scared of doing the right thing. The golf thing has been there, and it's been there for a long time. Of all the items on the table, okay, the one that can generate a material amount of revenue, okay, is golf. Rick Hurd has stood up here. Angelo Sands has stood up here. I've been here nearly 4 years detailing for you guys the economic value of doing a golf component here. Your own survey listed golf as the #1 thing. You guys are afraid to make a decision. You go out and pay a consultant to tell you what to do. Don't shake your head. This is what's happening, okay? This is very frustrating, okay? You're losing a lot of the community members. You're losing the golfers who have lost confidence and lost faith in you guys in doing the right thing. $30 million of taxpayer money, and you're talking about walking trails, basketball courts, and pickleball. There's no revenue there. Okay, the constituents have lost 1/3 of their golf capacity, okay, over the past year. You guys tell us to go to the city. You blame this whole situation on the city, and I beg to differ. I don't agree with this at all. You guys need to get the courage to make decisions based on community input, okay, and move forward and convince the city to support what you guys are going to be doing. The city is pocketing $65 million for selling our beloved Boca Municipal Golf Course with 18 championship holes and nine executive holes. Okay, the new golf course is not going to be ready. It will not accommodate youth golf. It will not accommodate our aging population, special needs, the underserved. This is a big part of Boca Raton. How many pickleball courts do we have in Boca right now? You know, relative to the demand, the capacity, the great city of Boca Raton is going to have one 18-hole championship golf course that is not going to accommodate a large percentage of the population. You know, we stand up here and we repeat ourselves over and over again. I don't think anybody's listening. You get defensive, you want to respond, you want to, you know, defend your position. Nobody wants to open their minds and think about the right thing to do. A portion of the land to build a short alternative golf facility that can be used as an executive golf course as a first step to generate revenue. Look at your agenda. What is the city doing to you on your budget this year? Do you have money to do any large capital expenditures right now? And you're talking about things that, you know, are all around the main issue. So once again, I'll urge you guys to consider this and look to doing the right thing. This is very frustrating as a resident. I know you guys, I've been involved with you for 4 years. I know you know what the right thing to do is. You're afraid of the city, you're afraid of repercussions, and you don't want to make the decisions that you need to make. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Melissa, are there any calls coming in? No.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Sherman.
Sure, absolutely. Brian Sherman, Assistant District Counsel. Understanding that item 1, the Boca Chica, is going to be deferred at the request of Director Harms, although we would just kindly suggest that that action be done by motion. I know you asked the request of the board to defer. However, because we're going to just defer the item and there is action required, I would ask that be done by motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion item number 1 be withdrawn from the agenda for another meeting.
Discussion. Yes.
Can we, but rather than the motion to defer it, can we at least have a clarifying conversation about pickleball, or do you want to wait for the commissioner comments?
Brianne said that some of the numbers were not accurate, and she would like to look into that more deep.
I'm okay with taking the numbers off the table, but I still want to have the conversation in light of recent public comments. I think we all have a common understanding of what we're looking for on this topic. So I don't care if we talk about it now, or I'll wait till after the commissioner comments if you'd like. It's up to you.
Well, we could vote on it and decide with the roll call vote since a motion and a second have been made. Any other comments? Joanne, would you do a roll call, please? Yes.
I'd like to discuss it now as well.
You're free to make the comments during commissioner reports. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Sherman, and I apologize for not introducing you. This is Brian Sherman. He is helping us out. Sam and Jacob could not be here tonight. They have other commitments. It's time for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on August 30th, 2021. Do I hear a motion, please?
Moved.
Okay. Discussion? You had something to clarify? Okay. Any other discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 Okay, since the first item has been deferred, we're going to go to the Ground Associates contract renewal. And Brianne, would you like to lead us off? And then I think we'd like to have Mr. Ernst just weigh in on it a bit.
Madam Chair, if I may, just a point of order that this is actually it's a new contract, not a renewal. That the board went through the process required by statute, and as well as the committee went through and made the selections. So although it is the same vendor that the district had before, this is actually a new contract up before the board.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman.
Commissioners, on page 15, it starts off with the Grau and Associates agreement. It's very similar to the agreements we've signed in the past. It's a 5-year agreement. We have an opportunity to leave this agreement each year if we opted to. There's also some addenda in the back, which has been added, different from previous agreements with Grau. These are part of state statutes that were added from our attorneys. So looking today for approval of this contract, and if Craig wants to weigh in on the process we followed and going through the recommendation process.
Go ahead.
Just recommend approval, and I thank their Grau and Associates for the work they've done. And it was a very competitive, close process when it came right down to the end of the whole thing. And you know, it was more a case of Grau and Associates. Raquel has done a wonderful job for us, and there's no reason to take something away from someone who's been a good resource for the district.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the contract or proceed with the contract with Grau and Associates.
And please. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Mr.
Madam Chair, I assume I read through the contract, and there are some commitments in there that the district must make. And I'd ask Ms. Harms if this is the same agreement that we had previously approved, and if so, and if there are any changes over that prior agreement, and are we going to be able to comply with the requirements of Grau and Associates?
Yes, yes. This is the same setup as we've done before. Our audits are done a little bit later than some other municipalities, just because we are relying on the city to get us their numbers first. So it happens a little bit later than some areas, but yes, same, and we are able to comply with it.
So just one final question. So the agreement is a 5-year contract, but it's renewable annually.
Yes.
At the stated amounts, and may be discontinued with the proper notice.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Brianne or for Craig? Hearing none, Joanne, would you please do a roll call vote for the motion? Yes. Okay, here we go. The Patch Reef Park turf infill remediation is on page 26 of your agenda packet. Brianne?
This is actually something I'm going to turn over to Melissa Dawson. She put this together to keep our turf fields over at Patch Reef Park in their optimal condition. So I'll turn this over to Melissa to introduce it and answer your questions.
Okay. So commissioners, in your packet, as Brianne mentioned on page 26, is a overview. Basically, it's pretty common that after the first 2 years of brand new turf fields being installed, there is a rate of compaction, and that is a compaction of the infill that happens. We have talked to Mr. Decker at the city of Weston, who I believe now is the city manager at Weston. And he's been very helpful in this process and allowed us to evaluate our compaction compared to what Weston had the compaction that they had within their first years as well. And I want to thank Kevin Beckman as well for reaching out to Mr. Decker and having conversations as well to kind of let us have a nice comparison. I want to stress that what's happened is there's been some compaction at our field. So we need to add additional infill. Now, this is not a safety issue. The safety of the fields are completely safe. We do the GMAX testing every year. They've passed the GMAX because of the Brock padding that is installed under the turf. But if you lose your compaction and the amount of infill over time, the fibers will lay over and it will cause higher wear and tear on the fibers. So therefore you replace the infill and it will help the fibers stand up and extend the life of your turf. So what we would like to do is There's two options to address this. One, if we were concerned about wanting to make sure that we don't have additional compaction, we could go with an option to get basically a 20 super sacks of turf infill and add it to the 12 we already have. We can go out to the areas that are the most highly used in front of the goals, et cetera, and we can spread that. Or we can go ahead and get the full amount of super sacks, which would be basically 60 plus the 8 we have to fully address the compaction that we've had to date. And now I know one of the questions would be, well, how often will we have to do this? So we've also looked into on page 27 that there are fields now that can go 4 years without any more after their initial compaction based on the usage and the amount of use we get from our fields. The gentleman with the company said that we would probably be averaging around $8,000 per field. And that, depending on our usage, that could end up being every year, or it may even be every other year. So there's 3 fields out there. So that would be $24,000. So that's why Kevin was also crunched some numbers on us, which we supplied in there, as well as what the revenue and the savings have been for the fields over the years. And I believe that email explaining that is on page 29, where we break down the numbers. So what this comes down to is some compaction that we've had that is standard for fields in the first years. As the new infield settles, as it gets used and compacted down, we're asking to replace some of this infill, either small amounts in high use areas, so that we can evaluate further in the future if this is standard, or if there's a bigger issue, or to go ahead and address it fully right now to help continue to extend the life and make sure that we reach the full life of the fibers of the field. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Melissa. Where would this extra infill be stored?
Right now, the extra fields we have, the extra we have is stored at the fields. It's organic, so it's fine to be out in the weather, but we're talking about getting it in and spreading it, so it won't be stored.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Melissa?
Got a couple questions. First, when did the fields go in service? Second, what's the warranty like on the fields? And does the warranty require us to do any particular action?
Honestly, I don't know the answer on the warranty off the top of my head. Of the warranty requires us to address the field issue, the infill. I don't know that, so I can do a double check on that. So, fields went into use, it would have been September of 19.
Okay, so at a minimum, you need to do the remediation part, but it does, reading through the memo, it sounds like it's kind of fluid. You have to, it depends. It very much depends. It's not something that can be on a schedule, but for sure you want to do your remediation part to meet the warranty standards, whatever that may be.
The initial well, and again, I want to stress that I don't know for a fact that we have to do it to meet the warranty of it. But what it does is, if you don't do it, then you have more wear and tear on your fiber. So it could reduce the average turf field on average. Now, that does not mean that with good maintenance, et cetera, that it won't last longer, but they estimate 10 years. And so in order to continue to ensure you get the 10 years and maybe longer, it is recommended that you address the compaction.
Melissa, I'd like for you to look into that warranty issue, though, as Craig indicated, because there could be implications.
Okay.
Just to follow up with Craig, I'm not sure if there is a warranty, but I know there's been other synthetic fields in this town that have had to call on their warranty. And I think that was Boca High fields had to be replaced after a few years. Frankly, the way I read into this is that, there's going to be compaction throughout the entire field, because, when you put the product down, it's going to settle in. And it's going to be more settled in those areas of heavy play, which is typically in the goal area. But as a person who drives past these fields quite often, there's a lot of active play that takes place, not necessarily in the goal areas, just with individuals that are practicing there. I know the Lynn University practices there, and you're not always using the goal area. I think it's important for us to check the warranty, but I think it's also for us to do a thorough job of getting the infill leveled. And I myself am personally in favor of option number 2, which would give us a more evenly distributed infill throughout, rather than trying to just treat the areas that seem to be the most compacted, because we don't really know which one, where those areas are without doing a study of the entire field. But based upon the recommendation, and I've been down to the fields in Weston, and I know Mr. Decker's position pretty much supports us doing the entire field rather than just the areas of compaction, because those tines do. If you go over to Sugar Sand Park and see those fields over there, now there's a different infill, but it's the tines do take a beating if you don't keep the infield properly distributed.
So where do you go with this? You want to approve it now, or you want to take care of it? I agree with there needs to be work done. It needs to be scheduled. When's the right time? I don't know exactly when that is. It sounds like late in the fiscal year 2022, but if you want to book it now, my only one hesitancy would be storing anything out there, any organic field, because it either walks away or it deteriorates. I prefer to kind of just keep what we need.
I think what Melissa's talking about is ordering it and distributing it when it comes in. Is that correct, Melissa?
Correct. And this price includes purchasing it and spreading it. We had some left over from the initial install that Kevin's team has used to address areas in front of the goals, et cetera, from when the field's open till now. But so there's only 8 bags of that left. So there's 8 bags that are stored out there. The goal right now is to either, depending on which option you choose, either buy 20 additional. So we're spreading 28 bags and we would be spreading them as soon as they came in, or to buy the 60 to address the full fields and spread all 68 of them right away. So we're not talking about storing them.
The total cost, Melissa?
For option 2 that Bob mentioned is 106,998. And then for option 1 is 25,872. Now I will mention, if you choose option 1, option 2 will eventually have to be done to address the compaction. It's like when you put dirt down anywhere, that's what it is. When you wear on it, that's exactly what Bob mentioned. When you first put your layer of dirt down in your yard anywhere and it's walked on, it's going to compact. This does this. So what will happen after this is, when you address the initial compaction, then you'll just go to items where, like if you have a heavy rain and you get displacement from heavy rains, or eventually with it being toted off here and there. So that's why the amount that you will need in the future will go severely down.
City staff do this?
They do not do the spreading. No, it would go back to, it would be bid out.
Make a motion.
One last question
Okay.
for you, Melissa, is when does how long do the fields have to go down for to do this? And so this is a scheduling type thing.
When I talked to Paul from CSR, and he just is talking to me because he's done it. Again, this would be bid, so it would not necessarily be them doing it, but it would probably take about a week, and we would work to schedule it with Kevin Beckman and his team around the scheduling of the fields.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I recognize.
I'm sorry if I could just say one thing, Bob. I'm sorry to cut you off, because I really do want to say that Kevin, we have been in very close contact with Kevin and the city with this. So we are on the same page, and Kevin's been terrific with getting me all the information we've needed to present this to you, not only based on what our needs are, but also what other areas have been doing, and then what the positive impact of the fields have been, as the paperwork shows that, across the life, this is approximately $50,000 a year we've saved by going with these fields.
Madam Chair, I recognize that, as the letter said, the first 2 years of the fields, the compaction is accelerated and normal. And I think that we should go straight to the option number 2. And I make the motion that we select option number 2, and at the same time obtain information for future use on what the warranty says as far as our maintenance of the property.
I hear a second. Other discussion, please. Yes, Mr. Ernst.
Option number 2, this is saying go forward with the project, but it's saying RFP it to find the best work done. Okay.
Any other discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please, on the motion?
Yes.
Yes. Budget discussion, city O&M and the CIP found on page 30 of your agenda packet. Brianne, would you lead us off, please?
Commissioners, on page 30 is a projected budget with various millage rates. Our current proposed millage rate is the 1.05, which puts us in the best position for completing the projects that have been requested by the city, as well as the projects we need to do at our facilities. One of the questions we were asked at our last meeting is breaking down the park by park budgets. Where's the increases coming from? Where's the major part of that? And you know, we could go park by park, and we tried to do that, but there were some items that weren't budgeted, some costs of personnel that were like in the grounds, for example, you saw big increases, but that's because some of the employees were not allocated correctly in the previous year. The biggest increase in this budget comes from basically 1.1 million in personnel cost increase. Full-time salary is a 538,000 increase, part-time salary 106,000, OT another 13. There was no retirement allocation budgeted last year. This year it's 271,000. So the biggest increase in the budget comes from personnel costs. And as we've started to look at things, we've decided to close James E. Rutherford Community Center. We're going to continue to look at other parks, other facilities, and make changes along the way. But tonight, as far as the city's O&M budget goes, I'm recommending that we move forward and approve that budget. The items that I would like to discuss and get your input on are the CIP items on Schedule A. Schedule B in your packets was for our CIP projects, but it was cut off. So there is a correct Schedule B in your folders. But Schedule A, the items that we had for discussion last week, or the last meeting, was the maintenance facility at DeHornley Park for $2,025,000. An option that we have with that, as we continue to dive into how that facility is being used, is to budget for that and put it into a reserve fund, which would go at the bottom of our budget summary. We've done that in years past, where we put the city's CIP into a reserve fund so that we can further evaluate before approving the projects. So I open that up for discussion.
Thank you. Commissioners, Mr. Ernst, would you like to start us off?
I'm not really comfortable with all of the cost estimates we received from the city as of yet. And I think there's opportunity. I wish we could have a lower millage rate, but I think the 1.05 is still the recommended rate, at least from my perspective, because I see still very many costs that are going to be expended on it. And so one of them being the 2 million for this center. I guess it's still working out, and that's fine. I do think it's important that we contribute to the project. I also think there's some big unknowns out there. So until we know what those unknowns are, I think we should err on the safe side that this is the best millage rate for taking care of what we have, maintaining at a high level of standard, and along the way, we will further define what's happening out at Boca Chica. That's it.
Commissioner Wright?
With Craig, I also think tabling or putting the reserve money away for the city until we can kind of discuss that a little bit more is a good idea, to have it, you know, so that we can decide what to do with it once we discuss it a little more after Brianne had that visit out there this morning. You know, she needs to discuss it a little bit more. We need some more information on, you know, if they really need that big of a facility over there. And so that we don't have space that's not being used. So.
Mr. Engel?
One of the discussions I had with Ms. Harms is capping our contribution at the lesser of 30% of the cost, or 2.025 million, which I think would be the most equitable way to go. Something else I'd like to point out that Ms. Harms mentioned is personnel costs. Unfortunately, we don't have any control at all on city personnel costs. If we can have input into the number of slots, but as far as what they're paying for these slots, that's up to them. If they give an across the board 3.5% increase to all their employees, we can't even ask them to single out employees that we're financially responsible for. So I just like to make that point. It's not really a complaint, just an observation. Hopefully at some point, the city will try to be a little bit leaner and try to keep in mind that they're not the only ones footing the bill. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Rollins?
Yes, ma'am. Does everyone know what a construction manager at risk is? You know how that works? Construction manager at risk. And I'm no expert. I'll try to paraphrase what this means. If you look at the budget that was prepared on this structure, it starts out at the top with rough order magnitude budget with CMR, which abbreviation for construction manager at risk. And what that does is in the instance that I've experienced, is the contractor, the construction manager at risk, agrees to do the project at the price that's quoted. And if it goes over that, then it's at his risk. And in a lot of cases, they select the architect that does the work for them. So to give them some assurance that they're going to get the project built at this level. The thing I don't know is who the construction manager at risk is, what kind of track record this person has at this. And if you have a construction manager at risk, why do you have a contingency? Okay, so, and when I've seen contingencies at a CMR, it's usually 2 to 3%, not 7%. And the construction manager at risk fee is 15%, the way I read that, of the construction amount. I would assume that includes his profit and overhead. I don't know because it doesn't break it out in here. So my charge to Brienne is to bring us some information regarding the CMR, how it was selected. Has the city used this person before? Because it's a CMR, that we have some assurances that it's going to come in at these quoted prices. But then again, you have the contingency, which I don't understand why it's so high that you'd have that if you're so sure that you've got your contractor who's done this work. I mean, the architect who's done this work for you, and it's most likely the city has used this person before, or maybe there's a staff member or something. I don't know, but I think it bears checking that out. The other thing that concerned me when you put together the construction cost of the building and the furnishings, you're looking at $170 per square foot, which I think is pretty aggressive. And we're spending $200,000 for landscaping, which has to be maintained. The concrete, if you looked at that also, the concrete is $20 per square foot, for the foundation, which I think is another rich item that needs to be looked at. The other thing is there's 17 employees that will be in this facility. I'd like to know where they're going to be working. Are they just DeHornley? Are they Patch Reef? I mean, who are these workers and where do they work? I know the city requires uniforms of their employees, and there's a laundry in there, which I'm wondering if they're going to start doing the laundry, but rather than farming it out to me, which is another question. It's another cost that's involved. So there's some questions I have regarding the construction cost. $125 a square foot for a storage building. it's very possible that we're at the peak of construction cost anyway. To your point, Steve, I think you made it, that anything that where we come under this, we want to make assurances that we share in the reduction in expenses in the same portion, and then cap our expenses at the $2,025,000. And I assume also that we have operational cost on this for any potential storm damage. And I don't have any information in here as to how well this is going to be designed. I'm sure that you've got a big wide open area there. And I want to make sure that we have adequate windstorm protection that will withstand, a category 3, 4, or 5 storm, so that we don't have to come out of pocket another 30% to help with repairs. Those are my concerns. I respectfully agree with other commissioners that we should drop this to the reserve area, not approve or disapprove it until we have some additional information.
Were you reading my notes?
Well,
you took all my questions.
We'll see. I know you have an engineer in your family.
I do.
I have a friend that's an engineer, so I didn't do all this on my own. I don't think I'm that smart.
Well, I didn't do all of it on my own either. I used my structural engineer son. So, but those were also my concerns, the overages and the contingencies and the costs. I just have questions, and Brianne, if you would look into those, I think it's worth the effort so that we can all have our answers. Maybe at the next meeting. I do want to put that into a contingency fund, though. I mean, a reserve fund.
Okay, so if we're going to make a motion tonight to do that, then we'll have at least a budget summary to come forward with, and we can look at this after the budget is set. Just give us some more time to go through everything. I do know that the laundry room is not going to have a washing machine or anything like that. They've said it's where there is a contract with the uniform provider that they do the laundering services. So it's where the uniforms will be picked up and replaced.
So it's just a deposit area
Yes.
for drop off and pick
Yeah.
up. Okay.
And the construction manager hasn't been selected. That would come through the process, through the procurement process. So we'll find out.
So
those
they need a
details.
room to drop off their laundry into a basket?
Yes.
I hear a motion.
I first want to know if I can drop off my dry cleaning.
Yeah, your shirt's going to have a little name on it and a white patch there, Steve. So
Make a motion to drop this number to the reserve fund.
Hear a second.
second.
Any discussion? Durance? Okay. Joanne, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 I'd also like the same, I'd ask the same tonight, moving the 220,000 for the design fees for the Spanish River Maintenance Facility into a reserve fund so that we could talk to the city more about what that is and what they're working on with that.
For a motion?
And I second.
There any other discussion? Any questions? Joanne, would you do a roll call vote on the Spanish River Maintenance Facility?
Yes.
For operation and maintenance, just for clarification, since I have to present the budget on Wednesday, I'm going to move forward with their request. Unless there's something else that anybody wants to add tonight. The request was 21,948,900. That's what we currently have in our draft budget.
Okay.
I don't need a motion or anything. I'm just letting you guys know that's what we'll go forward with.
Time for the approval of payroll and invoices. Mr. Ernst, do I hear a motion?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of payroll and invoices for $78,155.46.
Okay. Any discussion, commissioners? Hearing none. Joanne, would you please do a roll call vote? Yes. To the reports and discussion items, we'll lead off with Executive Director Breanne Harms.
Commissioners, just some updates on a few items. The Gumbo Limbo Friends interlocal agreement with the city. It's my understanding that a draft agreement has been sent to the Friends for their consideration. I did request a copy from the city and from the Friends, but have not received a copy of that draft yet. We'll consider following up on that. Updates on Boca Chica. In the last 2 weeks, we've had an additional 3 pieces of a sectional and 8 big bags of trash that we've had to haul off from the property that were deposited there. We are waiting for approval of the demo and fencing permits to continue the work with the cleanup at Boca Chica. Those things are waiting with the city departments processing them. The maintenance RFP was re-advertised, and those are due back at 2 p.m. on October 8th. As far as Ocean Strand goes, on August 31st, we heard from the city's senior planner that there is nothing to do on our end. They are waiting to put that on the schedule for city council, and they will let us know when that is up. We've asked for an update, and we are waiting to hear back if there is any updates. The architect engineer RFQ that we advertised for our general projects, that is due back on October 1st. And then future agenda items that I'd like to add are Matisse agreement, user fees, which are a continuation from our previous meeting, and then the Miller Lake agreement. And I have met with Mike Kroll, and we are working on the scope still and reviewing some of the documents that we have on the property to make sure we're not duplicating more work of things that were already done on the property. So just going through that.
Thank you, Breanne. Mr. Sherman, would you like to report for District Council?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Both Mr. Gordon and Mr. Horwitz send their best. They are other meetings tonight, given the amount of budget hearings during September, but we have nothing to report. And thank you for allowing me to share this evening with you.
We now come to commissioners' reports, and I know that I usually lead off with you all, but Mama Bear is going to take the lead today. I just want to preface to you all and to the public that I'm in favor of helping out pickleball. I'm in favor of walking trails at Boca Chica. I want to help out the tennis players and the golfers. And the concept of a botanical garden or a community garden is also in my wheelhouse. But we did hire, or we're trying to hire, a consultant to help us plan this 212 acres of land. And I think we need to kind of fall back and regroup and decide where we're going to do all these things. We have some obvious wonderful opportunities for a PPP, for a pickleball, tennis, basketball facility, possibly on the southeast side, but that hasn't been determined yet because we want to hire the consultant to help us. We've already assisted the pickleball community, and I think we could possibly do more, but until we know exactly where we want to spend all the money, because we're in a budget crunch. We don't have all the money in the world, and we need to spend our tax dollars wisely for the public. We also don't know where the city's going to go with the tennis courts over at the Boca Country Club. If you listen to that meeting between the residents and the city staff, they haven't determined whether they're going to have all tennis courts, all pickleball courts, or a variety of the two. So we need to work with the city, possibly have a joint meeting. I mean, I would love to have a joint meeting with them to get together and see publicly what we can do together. And we also need to hear from the residents in Boca Chica and in the city about what we need, what they would like to see and do on that property. So spending money right now on pickleball courts or basketball courts, I think we need to figure out where they need to go in relation to all the other amenities that we want to put there. So Mama Bear has spoken, and we'll start off with you, Commissioner Wright. Thank you for indulging me.
No, I agree. I think we've hired Miller Lake to do a job, and I think jumping ahead and building some pickleball courts there now, who knows if that's the right spot for pickleball if we decide to have pickleball there. So I think I was at Station 8 the other day, and the pickleball courts over at El Rio were completely packed, and it was like 12 o'clock. smack dab in the middle of the day. So they are definitely being used, but I think just as of for right now, I think we've hired Miller Leg to do our master plan, and I think we need to do the whole, 212 acres as a master plan without jumping ahead and saying, let's just build this now just to have it. I think that would be a mistake to spend that money now and do that now. So, and again, to be clear, I am in support of walking and biking trails as a possibility. I am in support of golf as a possibility. I'm in support of possible pickleball tennis facility that was in the news this weekend. I'm kind of surprised it was what was said in the article that Andy said that the city had final say. I didn't. That's not what I thought it was. I thought we're designing this, based on what we think we need. We submit it to the city, and they don't deny us based on anything crazy, right? I didn't think that the city had final say in what we're going to do there. And if they do have final say, then I think they definitely need to be more involved in the design of it, for sure. And we haven't really had any conversation with them at this point on what they want there. I mean, I've had, conversations here and there with like individual council members, but they're just like, go ahead, see what you come up with, So I'm a little confused on them saying that they have final say. I never thought that they had final say in it. We do need their approval for the west side, of course, and for permitting on the east side. But I didn't think that we needed final, they had final say. So I guess, I don't know, a joint meeting would be great. I do know that 6,500 is set up, according to Brianne, just for council meetings at the moment, but I'm sure we could squeeze in and still all be, separated in some way. So hopefully we can get that set up so we can have conversations with them about this. I did speak to Jason Hayes over at the Boca Country Club because I was just interested in talking to him and seeing kind of, after that video that I saw. He basically said the same stuff. He's not really sure. They are going to set up those shorter tees, hopefully. He did say it would be quite a struggle to be able to have the executive players play on the course and not have a tight issues in terms of play, that kind of thing. So basically an executive course or a short course of some sort, for older players and younger players would be something that would be beneficial to have in tandem with the 18-hole course that they're going to have over there. So that was good to hear from him. And, I told him to also get in touch with Brian, or Brian to get in touch with him so that we can stay in contact in case he hears on what's being planned before we do. So just to keep in contact. And yeah, I mean, I think we should hold off on the pickleball. I think doing that straight away at Boca Chica might just be jumping the gun a bit. So that's it.
Mr. Engel?
First, I wish everybody a happy and healthy New Year. Or as they say in ancient Greek Latin, Shana Tova. Going forward on the issue of pickleball, I agree to go ahead with pickleball at Boca Chica right now is premature. I think it's putting the cart before the horse. We need to know what the recommendations are from our consultant, and we need to know what the community is interested in. Also, I think a joint meeting with the city on this subject is essential. We can't go forward without, at the very least, their input. And technically, they do have the final say when you get down to it, because they're the ones who must approve any design for the west side. And they're the ones who must approve permitting for the east side. Any design, feasible design that I've seen involves a piece of property from the west side, or at least getting rights, right of ways across Jeffrey Street, neither of which has been indicated to me as forthcoming. So I think all of this stuff needs to be crystallized. And the only way it can happen is if we have a joint meeting with the city. I would also like to add, if the city approved a short course, or if the city withdrew its opposition to a short course on the east side, I don't have any problem with it. And I think the other members of the board would agree with me. Okay, but I'm not going to go through what we went through before. All right. The city isn't really interested in our opinion. The city is interested in your opinion because you elect them. City council is elected by you, not by us. So my suggestion is, if you want to push this, push it with the city like you've pushed it with us. Okay, show up at every meeting, send them 50, 60, 70 emails every week, make phone calls. It's not, everybody here has said, yeah, if the city is willing to go along, we're not opposed to golf. If the recommendations of the consultant are in line with that, and they suggest putting a short course at Boca Chica, we're for it. I don't think there's any opposition. The opposition is with city council and with city staff. There's where the argument is, not with us. Thank you.
We go first, not last. Couple things. Okay, let's start with pickleball. Okay, number one, on pickleball for Patch Reef, while I agree with the concept that Patch Reef is a good location to keep racket sports together, we still have an open item with the city. We said that we were going to talk to them. The city was going to come back on this National Pickleball Foundation proposal or not. I think that needs to be defined. So it's not a done deal at Patch Reef. Like the concept of it, but I'm just saying it's not done. We're budgeting it because we're budgeting, and this is the time to do it. For pickleball for Boca Chica, look, I do not want to step on the toes of our new consultants of what they're doing. It never was the intent to step on the toes of the consultants. The whole vision here is get them on board to help us sort through some of the things. And out of that comes other opportunities. There's going to be plenty of different things. Some things people want to pay for. Some things they want to buy it from us. We can't sell it. So that's a given. We have to look at what we get the best use for the public. And it also comes with a, what is the lowest cost? I've got bad news for you. If you think we can develop 212 acres with $5 million, it's not going to happen. We simply cannot do it. So we need to seek partners. And some of those partners, the biggest partner in the room is going to be the city, who is coming fresh with their 70 million from the golf course out west. And they can solve a lot of problems. But this is going to get a plan together. And we pick Miller Lake specifically for the public-private partnerships, some of the going out and getting grants. But the city is on us together to work correctly with them. And so whether they have final approval or not, that's just semantics. I think we have to work together of what is it was going to be best used out there serving the greater community's needs. And then along the way, if we have a public-private partnership that can say where the hotel site was or a hotel, and that can generate revenue one way or another, we should facilitate it because it will reduce overall taxpayer costs one way or another. But there's a lot of opportunity there. So let's let it flush out. As far as pickleball goes there, I never envisioned 300, 400,000 in pickleball. I thought we were looking at the proposal that we looked at in the very beginning when we had spontaneity of residents going out there and actually playing on those fields. And we're saying, well, it's not exactly safe. Don't go there. And I don't like the idea of telling people not to play on stuff. Let's make it usable. But I thought it was just a simple, low-cost resurfacing, not going in and building something fancy or anything, because I got bad news for us. No matter what we do, it's going to take more than a year to do anything. It'll probably take 2 years. And depending on where it is, it could be 3 years. By that time, you're going to have Melissa telling us about, let's repaint those things. I don't think it is a very big expense to go out there and put existing fields, fix what you can on those pickleball courts at a low cost basis. Now I get it. CSR is going to come in with the big grand proposal on everything. We didn't bid it. We didn't do anything. I was just looking for a simple fix to allow people to play pickleball out there and use what's there. I think it's on the docket for next time. Let Melissa do the work. We still will go forward with it. Is it good money after bad? Maybe for a year or two, but I don't know. We don't know what will evolve. And I'm not afraid of taking it out. I'm just saying don't spend a lot of money. Now, Mr. Decate raises an interesting point. 400,000 versus 900,000 at Pat Street. Okay, that's a valid, that's a question. That's a good question mark. I don't know why, but I mean, I think that's something to look into. But I'm still supportive of at least have something out there with the fences that are going there. It's not a big deal. But if you're going to build something big, okay, I back off on it. And I also know that given our experience with Ocean Strand, we all thought that Ocean Strand, a little trail, $100,000. Well, now it's not 100,000. It mushrooms into other things. So we should anticipate whatever it is will mushroom into something else. So maybe they're right. And maybe that's a good reason to pull back. But going forward for us, if it's easy to do something on the pickleball front at low cost, I say do it, because you're going to be sitting on that for a little while longer. Number two, fully support Miller Lake coming in. And along the way, we're going to get different proposals, let Miller Lake pull them together. And then we do need to have that city meeting. But let's not schedule a city meeting unless we got something to talk about. And with that part, that is going to come with the partnerships and ideas that are being flushed out from Miller Lake.
You mentioned partnerships. If we could bring in someone to talk to you about a partnership for the golf course, that would be amazing for the entire community. Would you consider having that on the agenda, commissioners?
New member saying that First Tee of Palm Beach County and Treasure Coast was interested. I did not contact them. I recommended to this community member that they come to us instead of talking to each one individually, and just coming to us and presenting whatever they have, whatever ideas they had. So that if it's something that we want to go ahead with, we not necessarily go ahead with, but talk to Miller Lake and see if it's something that we want to incorporate as a possibility. Because this community member said that there was financial interest and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, an individual conversation didn't really make sense to me when, you know, if they really seriously are interested, then they should come to a meeting and do a presentation. So I think anybody who is, you know, interested in doing something with us, getting in front of us and showing us what they have, I think is the best thing, so that we can talk to Miller Lake once they're on board.
You know, is it okay to have an initial conversation? I really don't see it as a big deal. You can pre-vet it out, but ultimately we're going to steer them towards Miller Lake, and then it's all going to come back out there. My challenge for you on that, when you have a public meeting and say, I want to put in a bowling alley, you're going to have, you know, X number of people from Boca Chica say, I don't like a bowling alley. I don't want a bowling alley. They're going to be, I don't like the, if you want to put everything out there in the public forum like that, it's doable, but it'd be better coordinated through Miller Lake. So.
But going to Miller Lake is saying that that's definitely who we're using, right? That's something that would be telling Miller Lake. See, I'm confused on the process here in terms of these public-private partnerships are possibilities, but where does it come into play? Who do they speak to? How do we know who's being incorporated and who's not? That's what my confusion is on that. You know what I mean?
Well, we have to, we're not giving, and I'm totally with you on this, Aaron. So we have to give Miller Lake direction. We can't just say, okay, here's 212 acres. Go figure out what we should do with it. No, we have to give them the direction of all the different things that we have, and the community does as well. Not just Boca Chica, but the entire community. So you mentioned walking trails. We've talked about golf. We've talked about all these different options, but we also have, you know, if we need a partner, we need to hear what they're going to say so that we can say to Miller Lake, yes, this is a really good option. These are reputable people. These are good people to have on board for this particular project, whether it's the walking trails, the golf, or whatever. So I don't think that just saying to the community, oh, Miller Lake's going to do this whole thing without any input from from our board and from the community is the way to go. Don't you agree, Aaron?
But I mean, Miller Lake is going to be doing those public outreach meetings, correct? So is that the opportunity for public-private partnerships to come in and do their presentations? Well, that's what I'm confused with. How do we hear from these private partners to be able to incorporate them into the plan and see which ones fit best into the 212 acres? That's my confusion, I guess.
Well, maybe I can clarify it if I can. I mean, I'm just saying, you're going to hear different options from many different, whether it's developers or whether it's entities who want to do a recreational thing. That all gets ultimately funneled through Brianne. In my mind, it goes through the executive director. She's the one who should be kind of the focal point for it. Miller Lake hasn't even signed a contract yet. So we got to get a contract on board of what they're going to do, what they will do and won't do. And that's part of spelling out what they'll do and won't do. But I also think it's okay to have, you know, some level of vetting of this stuff to see what's out there, because you're going to get recommendations from the city one way or another. They're in the middle of everything. Let those things naturally flow. But if you want to funnel them right through a public meeting on each and every one, I feel like you're voting on each and every one. And I think it's premature. I think.
Well, we also have to go out to bid, Craig, for all of them.
Absolutely, we'll go out to bid with them as the best part. But right now, it's about fleshing out ideas. And these are just like Dave and Nay. But all the ideas they are more towards Miller Lake. We're going to gear them up. And we're going to say that like don't like could be a golf component or not.
Steve.
Excuse me. Couple of things here. Yeah, I agree with you. We definitely do have to give Miller Lake direction. We can't just say, well, just bring us every idea you hear. We don't want to hear about a mosquito park at Boca Chica. And the other side of that coin too is we need input from the city, because the city, when all is said and done, still owns the west side of the property. And they still have to, whether we like it or not, and whether we think our proposals are reasonable or not, they have to think they're reasonable. And this is a fact of life. This is not, I'm in favor of project A or I'm in favor of project B. All right, the city needs to be involved. Otherwise, we're guilty of doing to the city what we accuse the city of doing to us, and that's leaving us out of the equation when we should be a part of it. So we have to figure out a way to include the city. We have to give Miller Lake some kind of direction, and they have to come back to us with viable ideas, things that make sense. That can include golf. That can include walking trails. That can include a botanical garden. That can include a fishing pond. It could include a whole host of things. But we have to make sure that we hear or there is input from every segment of the stakeholder community, which is the residents of the entire district, the city, and us, and any outside concerns that are interested in a public-private partnership within the strictures that we are mandated to operate under.
Collins, we haven't heard from you, and I apologize. It's your turn. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me participate. Well, I jotted down some notes. The one thing I'll say, Aaron, I go back to the original agreement we had when we signed that deal with the city that says their approval would not be unreasonably denied. Well, frankly, folks, it was unreasonably denied. And I'm tired of being pushed back in the corner like that. I'm sure, like the rest of you, you've talked to city council members about this, and I have too. if they're have their eyes and ears open, they'll know that we're losing 30,000 rounds from the short course there at Boca Muni. From the very get-go, the community overwhelmingly has addressed golf as a sport they want to have at this property. The west side is the best side for that. Rick Hurd showed a site plan on how that would fit in there. I think I've made reference to an alternative golf course in West Boca that sits on 50-something acres, par 62. I played the course. It's doable. It's enjoyable. The only thing it doesn't have as a component that it would need would be a learning center and a driving range. Rick showed how those would fit in that property. I do believe, after talking with or listening to the public, listening to, I had a conversation with Mike Wika and Chrissy Gibson last week specifically about Boca Country Club. I'm not sure that I got the impression that, and I've heard that, having another set of tees, a short tees, that's not the answer to Boca Country Club for the seniors and the juniors to play that course on a short tee. I got anybody that's played golf and has ever played a 4.5, 5 hour round knows that you'll probably never go back to that course again. You start mixing players like that, you're going to have some difficulty, which is the reason why we need to have serious consideration. And I do believe that if we have someone like Mr. Hurd, Greg Galinas, they've all supported golf from the very beginning. It will fit in this course. And one of the reasons that we like Miller Leg, if I'm not mistaken, is because in Plantation, they designed a course that had walking paths, and they were very creative on how they put this course out there. I haven't given up on that, and listening to the conversation and having a conversation with Mr. Wika and Ms. Gibson, they really still don't know what they're going to do with the tennis. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have the conversation with the two of them was to let them know, if they hadn't already heard, that we're looking at pickleball over at Patch Reef. The reason it makes sense over there is it's a revenue builder. One of the reasons that I think the cost differential is different, and I could be wrong. Melissa, were you looking at lights over there at Boca Chica? Okay. So,
also, the infrastructure, you expand the footprint. So you're clearing trees and laying new asphalt and putting in and leveling ground at Patch Reef, as opposed to just resurfacing the top of courts at Boca Chica. But there's also no lights at Boca Chica.
And how many pickleball courts were you talking about that latest discussion?
At Boca Chica, there's 12. And there is an option that we're waiting for a quote back from Fast Drive to go with a simpler version as well, to address what Craig had wanted, 6, but we haven't gotten that quote back. We didn't have it in time. At Patch Reef Park, there's the option that you guys discussed was adding 12 as a point of curiosity to make sure. I was asking when we hired somebody, I was going to ask them so we could let you know that what would be the cost of building 12 new in a location and maintaining the 6 where they're at. Or the option, would it be that, what would be the price difference between building an additional 18 so that the 6 that were there could be reconverted back to tennis and all the pickleball would be in one location?
Okay, well, so part of the difference in cost is going to be the lights. I mean, that's a huge cost. Secondly, I don't believe that the neighbors would like to have lights in their backyard on the pickleball courts, or for that matter, my grandson plays travel soccer, and they don't leave the fields at the Hornley until 9:30, 9:45, and only then, because the city sometimes cuts the lights off early. It leaves them stranded out there. So I think the cost differential largely is going to be in the fact that we're going to light it. We have some work to do here at Patch Reef, and the main reason I talked to Chrissy Gibson and Mike Wika was just to let them know of our plans and try to flesh out some of the issues that they there's a lot of unknowns that they have over there still with where a road's going to go. They're looking at moving the entrance over there. I got the impression that a national pickleball complex is not in the cards over there at Boca Country Club. I'm not interested in having 30 pickleball courts with lights in a 15 or 20,000 stadium in our park over at Ocean Breeze. Just my opinion. I think to Craig's point, yeah, we need to have something to talk about in order to have a meeting with the city. We don't right now. We're just blue sky. I'd like to have a meeting with the city after we've had some kind of public hearing and have a consensus on what we want to do. And I really believe in my conversations with a member of city council that the position may be mellowing on having some kind of, I think the comment was, if you don't have to ask me for money to do this, I probably would go along to support having a golf component at Ocean Breeze. I think we all have some good ideas. I don't know what a public-private partnership looks like. Does anybody? I do not. I know that it would get the project sped up faster because they would provide capital, but at what cost to us and to the public? We don't know that. Are we going to turn our property over to a profit-making organization that was paid for with tax dollars? I don't know whether I'm ready for that or not. I just think that we're too early to make a decision about pickleball at Boca Chica. There's no restroom facility over there. I think that would have to be factored in. With Patch Reef, we have a way to collect revenue. The non-residents in the county pay a higher fee than the residents would pay that. It's lighted over at Boca Chica. If you can't light it, you're going to cut out some time where a working person could play that unless they got there at 7 o'clock and then hurried back home and they lived in that area, took a shower and got to work. But without lights over there, like so many of our other parks, in the wintertime, everything shuts down. You can't use the facility. And I think, as Craig said, we do not have the money to develop this park entirely at one swoop. It's just not going to happen. There was a discussion of a recreational master plan, and I recall Michael Calvert saying, let us know how much land you're going to have left. Well, we don't even know that right now, but I know we have future needs. 10 years ago, pickleball wasn't even on the radar. And at that time, it was lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in this country. I hadn't heard that anymore, but pickleball is certainly a growing sport. And I think that having lighted facilities where they can play in the cool of the evening is more important than trying to put something down over at Boca Chica. I want them to have something over there. I want them to know that we're supporting activities over there that have been mentioned, walking trails and indoor tennis facility. I think those are compatible over there. But we're really kind of putting the cart before the horse right now by trying to get something going before we've had Miller Lake weigh in with public comments and charrettes. I really think that they're probably I know we had 5-0 vote for them, so I know that they're going to be a great organization for us. But I think right now, let's just focus on getting, everybody has an idea what they want. Sue covered it. Walking trails, golf, indoor tennis. I think those are compatible with that. We put together a good plan. And by the way, the city council has never voted on an idea to put golf over there. They've just told us they've made comments in public meetings, but they've never voted on it. So we don't know what would happen if I don't think that unless they're going to vote on it, folks over there, you're not going to get a very good reception from city council unless they have a motion to vote on it. And then that's the time you want to talk to them and let the people, let council know how you feel about it. I think that we have a lot of opportunity with this 212 acres. I think there's something that we can sell city council on our plan once we get a plan from the public, but we're way ahead of it. And as far as I guess I've had 3 different organizations contact me about spending their money on our land to put up an indoor facility. And I agree with you, Aaron. I did not like the comment. I don't know that it was Andy who said, I think Miranda Christensen said that the city has a final approval on what goes there. Okay, they may have the final approval, but the approval can't be unreasonably withheld. And I promise you, we should make a point with that, with those folks, and not waste our time. And if we do this thing right, I think we can get what we want. So, sorry.
All good points.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Sherman.
Thank you. I just want to mention, given some of the commissioner comments from the board, that there is a particular statute regarding public-private partnerships, and that statute itself actually governs a lot of the procedures that would need to follow regarding any type of solicitation application. And our office would absolutely work with Director Harms to help make sure that when a solicitation is actually made, that those proper procedures are followed.
That's good to know, because I was approached by, well, not approached. I met with someone about a public-private partnership with a not-for-profit. And it would be a wonderful opportunity. Aaron has touched on it. It would be a wonderful opportunity. But again, I understand that we would have to go out for bid, and they would have to compete with whoever else would want to go in on this venture, possibly for a golf course with us. But it would encompass not only the youth of the community and the surrounding communities, but also the special needs and the veterans. And it's just a very heartwarming, First Tee is a very heartwarming, wonderful organization. And it's something that we should look into and consider at the proper juncture. So just throwing that out there for all of you. I do understand that we can't just, wrap our arms around them and take them into our organization. I did have a request from someone that they would like to have public comments reopened. Could I get a motion to reopen public requests? Any comment? Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please? Mr. Galanis, would you reintroduce yourself, please?
Need to put a pair of running shoes in the budget for her. Greg Galanis, 1780 Parkside Circle South, Boca Raton. And first, I want to apologize to Aaron. I don't mean to single you out, and my tone was inappropriate. I apologize. I respect all of you guys. I've known you guys for 4 years, some of you for 34 years. And I know that in your hearts, you guys want to do the right thing. I think the process needs to be defined. The city council knows less about golf than you guys do, a lot less. And their family, their neighbors, their friends, and their developer friends could care less about a public golf course because they all belong to private golf courses. Okay. I'm here. I've been here for 4 years. I care. I represent several hundred golfers, and I know in my heart that this is the right thing to do. Steve, I know you believe that the city, is in charge here, but again, I think the process is broken. I don't think it's what they want or what you guys want. I think it's what the community wants. You guys did a survey to the community. It needs to start with what does the community want or need and go from there. It's very simple. And Bob, you're absolutely right. The approval has been unreasonably withheld on the west side. The east side, you guys have the legal right to do what you want. I mean, Rick has got a plan where you could do it on the east side. If the city wants to extend Jeffrey and allow that train station to go in there, then they should pay for a bridge to go over the street. You know, I mean, this whole conversation is frustrating, and I know you guys are frustrated as well. Know that there are several hundred golfers that support doing the right thing here. It's not just 30,000 rounds of golf, okay? The golf industry is growing at 15% per year, okay? Red Reef is not an option. We have no parking. There's no practice facility. The kids have nowhere to go. The seniors, half the guys in my group are 70 or 80 years old. Boca Country Club, Aaron, I'm so glad you spoke to Jason. He's a good guy. He's a good hire. He knows what he's doing. The first thing he said to me is, we're in trouble. You know, losing the executive course. We have no place to put these people. You can reconfigure Boca Country Club any way you'd like. It will not work. There's 25 guys in the men's group out of 60 that on the 9th and 10th hole can hit a basket of balls and not get over the water. So it's not doable. These guys have got a lot on their plate. Follow the community, listen to the community, gain some consensus in your group, and then have a meeting with them. The city has to listen to you guys if the residents and you guys are you know, in sync. The other thing is they have no business pocketing $65 million of recreation money that's the taxpayers' money. I'm going to go stand up at the next meeting. I was going to go today. I'm frustrated, you know, and I'm angry, but it's not their call, Steve. It's the residents' call. It's our taxpayer money. And we're empowering you guys to make the decision, and we will stand behind you and support you. But if you guys aren't in agreement and we're not supporting you, the tail's going to be wagging the dog here. The city has bigger fish to fry. You guys are Parks and Recreation. You know how to do it. You've done outstanding work. I mean, your reputation is out there. The facilities that you've done are exceptional. But you guys have to come to a consensus what you want to do. You know, my group, if you guys determine that the community doesn't want golf, that's great. We'll go find another place to play. But we know that that's not the case. Anyways, I appreciate what you guys do. I apologize again for my tone. You know, my people keep asking me, why do I bother showing up anymore? They don't think anything's going to happen. The worst thing in your world as an elected person sitting up there isn't me up here yelling at you. It's me deciding not to come to these meetings anymore and not caring enough. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And just to reiterate, I think we all are pretty much on the same page in terms of open-mindedness, in terms of a new master plan, right? So you do understand why we had to go back out and get an architect to come and master plan this whole property all over again. It's after the city was given that 18 holes, we couldn't just say, okay, let's just build the executive and the driving range. We have a whole 212 acres that it has to be cohesive and it has to flow. So we really had to do that all over again.
I agree with you completely.
Right.
But starting with what does the community want and need, and then giving it to the developer to figure out.
Well, keep in mind though, this is not a developer, this is a master planner, right? So they're going to take what we've gathered so far and do additional charrettes and gathering of information so that we make sure not only do we have the input of Boca Chica and the surrounding community, but we also need the input of the entire community. And I don't think we got that quite in the RFI that we got back out. So I'm hoping, that's what I'm hoping for in terms of the master planning of this area, is that we really get a whole community idea on really what can be done there. And I am all for, I think we need to do something much more creative with the golf than the stiffness that we had in the original plan that we had. I think it came off to me very old fashioned and kind of not to not to make golf a bad word, but it came off very golfy and not community friendly. So I'm hoping that if we do decide to go with golf, that we make it something super creative that the whole community can kind of come around. And because I think city council will absolutely be all for something that will really coincide with the 18 holes that other people can use other than 18-hole golfers. You know what I mean?
I do.
So that's kind of where I'm at with this whole process. And I know it's taking a long time, but we're doing the best we can with what happened with the whole situation.
So the golfers are willing to come to the table and help. The alternative golf that you guys described is becoming very popular. But being a traditional golfer my whole life, like this is the trendy thing that's going to come and go. So you do a baseline executive course that can be used in multiple different ways to address that. Mr. Rollins said something interesting that I meant to say when I first started speaking. The city has to be sold. Okay, I spent my whole life, 40 years selling, and if there's one thing that I took away from that 40 years is the selling doesn't start until somebody says no. Okay, I know all the city council people, they don't know anything about golf, nothing. And this is an opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity, our community is going to miss if we don't do the right thing. And these guys are going to be living in a community with a mishmash of things, and nobody wants that. You know, we want to bring value. We want to do it right. I understand doing a master plan. It's got to be done in stages, and it's got to be paid for. And damn it, someone's got to tell the city they've got to come up with 10 million or so from the $65 million.
You should go tell them
that. That is no. I'm going to go ask them. I'm going to ask them publicly. What are you doing with the $65 million?
Well, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, well, we're putting, what is it? 7 million, I think, is what, 7 million? 7 million into the Boca Country Club. Well, that's great. You know, but I think, and I don't necessarily think they need to pay for golf or whatever, but like whatever we do master plan over there, I, from the very beginning of this whole project, always said that they should contribute something. And I think they absolutely need to hear from the public, because the only people I've talked to have said, yeah, they should put some money towards it. But I think they have other plans for that money, and I'll continue to say it, but I think they need to hear it from the public as well.
I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but you guys have to come together. You know, get Michael Wika, get the Parks and Recreation people, get them with Brienne and her team, and develop a master plan from there. And then someone's going to say, how do we pay for it? I'll be happy to stand up at the city council meeting and get on the mayor's agenda and demand some of that 65 million, because that's something the golfers are pissed about. You know, we've got this unbelievable golf course that we're losing, and they're taking that money and not even telling us where they're committing it.
We hear it all the time, but they don't hear it. They don't hear it from you, and they don't hear it from the golfers. So if you want them to hear it, you have to say it.
I understand, but if you guys aren't in agreement that you want to do something, how you're going to do it?
Come to agreement. We have to take the steps necessary to get there first, right? So that's why we're starting, I think, with this master plan, right? So that we can come to consensus with the community. I don't think the city is interested at all in coming and helping us design this property. They're looking at it, it's our property, it's our responsibility. So we need to come up with a great master plan that they can't say no to.
So they've given
you.
And
then we can say, give us some money for it.
And then at the next meeting, hopefully we have the Miller Leg agreement and we can go forth from there. So that's where we have to start.
Thank you for the extra time. I want to stay involved. I want to stay engaged. But I need you guys to stay open-minded and consider everything. I mean, you did a survey, you got overwhelming input, and then it got disregarded. You know, well, this wasn't really a survey. I mean, what was it? I don't know. Amen.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Our future agenda items are the Matisse agreement, the Miller-Leg agreement, and user fees. Do you have any? Oh,
I've been saying my name again. I'm nobody. Harold Chappie, Boca Chica, whatever. Listen, there was 2 surveys that were done. Number one was done by the city, and the same results came out. And the ones that you done, the same results, both of them. So you've got a good pulse of what the community wants, the whole city. Yeah, don't wink, it's the truth. You think we have enough power in Boca Chica to swing the city, the whole vote? We didn't even know about this thing going on.
Mr. Chaffee has the floor, Aaron.
No, it's a good debate. We should be talking more about like this. We should. Listen, this process, first of all, the biggest ammunition that you have is this person that you're going to hire, because you're going to get his input. You're going to get the people's input. You're going to get your input. You have to go to the city with something that basically is combined, okay? Because it'd be very hard for the city to reject what this designer has put in place. As we go along, people are going to come up and offer things to you. There has to be a process. I think the process would be to get a hold of, if somebody wants to do a public-private partnership, it should go through Brienne first, and then introduce it. It shouldn't be talked about first, because like you said, we're either rejecting it or accepting it. That's the wrong way to go. Everything has to go through the designer, but it has to go through a channel. Yeah, this way we can talk about things, we can discuss things, we can have charrettes, and we can make it the best that we possibly can. And we can get everything that we possibly want out of this. To overreact to a situation. Listen, we waited 4 years now. There's no sense in going crazy now and putting something that if you spent $250,000 on a pickleball court, do you think that anybody would want you to tear that up and waste $250,000? Even if it was a year or 2 years ago, you'd never be able to remove that. You would have a battle on your hands. 50 people would come here and say, you're not going to take my heart away. You're not going to take my pickleball parts away. So you can't do that, But like I said, the most important thing is to get this designer in place, have the meetings, the charrette, get your opinion, everybody's opinion. That's what's the most important part. And then bring it to the city. Then it's unified. The city would have a very difficult time turning that down, rather than just individual, us going, you going. It's haphazard. All right. And we're all on the same page here. We just want something beautiful for the city. That's all we want. We got screwed once. We really did. It's a shame that this thing, where we are right now. It's just a crying shame. And I really think the city knew about this long before we knew about it. And that's why Andy Thompson, that's why everybody just played a game with us and dragged this thing out. It's just a disgrace. It really is. If they would have just been honest with us, and let us know that it's wasting our money and wasting our time talking about it. But here's where we are, and this is where we have to go. And the most important thing is to get these people on page. I was very impressed by these people, the people that you agreed to hire, the way they talked, the way that they could work in the trails with the golf courses and everything else that could be done. Where the golf course goes, I don't really care. All I want is something beautiful. And the Hidden Valley, all those communities that are north of us, all have a big part of what's going to be going here. I wish we could settle on the old driving range. It would be nice if it was closer. We could connect the two together with walking paths and stuff like this, but it's just not going to happen. But you never know what could happen. Never know what could happen. Take a good look at a map, and we can come up with ideas. Something new, something different. Something like Celebrity. It's almost like a Central Park. We have a great opportunity here. The best thing we did was to buy the land, and you're still going to get criticized for it, but who cares? There's no other land around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chappie. And I apologize. I didn't see you jump up there. So we always like to hear from you. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may, if there's no additional public comment, if you could just officially close the second public comment hearing.
Intend to, Mr. Sherman. Yes. Public requests for the second time are now closed. We have future agenda items, the Matisse business agreement, the Miller-Leg agreement, and the user fees. Are there any other future agenda items, commissioners?
we're going to have the pickleball at Boca Chica as just a follow-up.
It's up to you.
I mean, I like to have at least the resurfacing part of it so that we can.
Okay.
Let's just get the minimum. We're never intended to kind of build.
Well, let's get a number.
So, yeah.
Okay. So pickleball as well. Including restrooms.
There now. They don't have lighting there now. So we're not looking to do something that is.
Okay. Mr. Engel, I think it's your. Okay, second by Mr. Rollins. Discussion. Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes.